You might remember that recently I wrote an article on Metaphys that included a single copy of Asymmetaphys, the continuous spell draw card with some extra effects depending on whose turn it is when the first Metaphys card is banished in the turn. I totally disagree with my own assessment here that Asymmetaphys is only necessary as a one of after playing the deck for a couple of extra weeks and getting some time to experiment with it. What I've discovered is that Asymmetaphys is necessary. You really do need it in a world with Metaphys Ascension, because you need to be able to banish Ascension from your hand. You need to banish all of your Metaphys monsters, in fact, from your hand, because that's really what Asymmetaphys is at its core. It is the draw spell that you wish you could run. It is the Sacred Sword. It is the Trade-In. It is all of those cards rolled into one single card, and it allows you to just pop off not only your big level 7, level 8 monsters, but also your trap card, your new Ascension trap card that searches a card immediately. Opening with this and Ascension is actually pretty good. It turns Ascension basically into an instant search card. And as an added bonus, you can also banish any other dead Metaphys card in your hand. For a deck that has issues with dead cards, that has issues with drawing cards that it would rather just have banished, Asymmetaphys is nearly perfect, and that's going beyond the fact that its other two effects are fantastic. So once again, Asymmetaphys allows you to banish a Metaphys card from your hand and draw a card. Now, this isn't once per turn in the sense that it's not a hard once per turn. You can activate multiple copies of Asymmetaphys on the same turn. If you have 3 of them on the field, you can activate 3 of them on the same turn. Now, their second and third effects, which include, well, it really is rolled into its just 1 second effect that applies an effect depending on whose turn it is. That will activate across all of your copies of Asymmetaphys simultaneously. That's because it activates on the first banish that happens. So if you have 3 Asymmetaphys face up and a Metaphys card is banished, all of your opponent's monsters will lose 1,500 attack and defense except Metaphys monsters. So that's all monsters on the field. They all lose a significant amount of attack and defense, enough that Metaphys Ragnarok can very easily climb through, take out a monster, deal some battle damage, and special summon a Metaphys Daedalus from the deck. And of course, the same is true for the battle position changing effect. However, you want to be careful here. If you have an even number of Metaphys, Asymmetaphys on the field, it will change your opponent's battle position, or change all of your monsters' battle position, except for Metaphys monsters. But then it will change them right back to whatever they were. So if you have 2 of them on the field, the first one will, say, change all the attack position monsters to defense position, and the second one will change them right back into attack position. So you always want to try to keep an odd number if you're relying on that effect for some kind of defense or disruption. Not that it matters against links, which is another problem with this deck. All right, so does this card make Metaphys viable if you're running it at 3? Well, not necessarily. Metaphys still has a couple of issues, and this card doesn't fix them. But it does help, right? It helps declump your hands. It helps get cards from the hand into the graveyard, or excuse me, into the banish zone in a way that's better than what Ascension is capable of. I initially was playing only 1 copy for a while, because I felt that you could search it off of Ascension anyways. The problem with that theory is that you're going to need Asymmetaphys to actually get the search effect of Metaphys Ascension. If you don't have Asymmetaphys, it's going to be pretty difficult to try to trigger a in-hand copy of Metaphys Ascension. In fact, it's really difficult to do so. There are very few ways to do it other than actually setting it, waiting a turn, trying to knock it out of your hand or off your field with Fairy Tale Snow. It's really rough. It's not easy. Or like having Macrocosmos face up and discarding it, or activating its effect later with Macrocosmos face up. It's not easy, and it's certainly not something you could do immediately. Which is part of the appeal of Metaphys Ascension, is that you can use it immediately. You want to be able to use copies in your hand too, very quickly if at all possible. And Asymmetaphys lets you do that. So I think it's a 3 of in the Metaphys deck, and that was a mistake I made in my article, not suggesting 3 copies. And I the point of this video is sort of to correct that going forward. Not that many people are playing Metaphys to begin with, but I've greatly enjoyed the deck lately. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's cool. I just don't find it to be terribly competitive. It still doesn't really have an end game in the same way that other strategies do right now. I wish it did. I wish there was something that screamed, hey, this is what you're going for, and you will absolutely win duels with it. Unfortunately, the sort of necessary setups that you need to create require you to run a lot of normal summons. I'm running like 3 copies of Raiden, Hand of the Lightsworn, 3 copies of Metaphys Ragnarok, and 3 copies of Fairy Tale Snow. 2 or 3 copies. It depends. It changes literally every day that I play the deck. And unfortunately, that does stick you with a lot of cards that are asking for your normal summon, especially if you draw into something like Necroface, right? Then you're even more in a position where you wish you had that extra normal summon. Brilliant Fusion helps, but not necessarily all the time. There are very few early game setups that are really effective. Building with Metaphys Dimension is good, but it's not great. It's a deck that unfortunately has a hard time getting away with playing something like Scapegoat, even though it would really want to. Scapegoat would be fantastic in this kind of build. You almost want to play it passively, like if you've ever watched like a slow Trickstar duel, you almost want to play this deck like that. Anyways, I've rambled on too long about this deck. Let me know what you think if you guys are still building it, and what your builds look like. All right, until next time then.